We've got a question from John. He says, I'm wondering about your thoughts on the sport of powerlifting, and if you have any advice for an aspiring powerlifter like myself on how to put up big numbers on squat, bench, and deadlift. I would suggest squat, bench, and deadlift, yeah. I know it's going to take time for me to even break a 300-pound deadlift, let alone 600 pounds, but I'm sure the earlier I start implementing quality strategies, the better. Yeah, well, yeah. If you can't deadlift 300, yeah, we have a path ahead of us. Now, I've only competed in one powerlifting meet, so I got to be careful here. But a lot of my friends are very, very good powerlifters. In fact, this weekend I spent some time with one of the best powerlifters in the history of the sport. And I'm not none of that. I'm just being honest with you. One of the things that it helps if you want to be a power lifter, it seems to me, is that you need a background of like general strength too. Now, obviously the best way to build general strength are the power lifts and the Olympic lifts. So that sounds like an odd statement, right away. What's the best thing for powerlifting? Powerlifting. What's the best thing for Olympic lifting? Olympic lifting. But one of the things I would like you to start thinking of, and this is something I've stolen from that great West German coach, Stefan Korte, Korte, is when I talk to people about doing the power lifts in the beginning, now it's going to change over time, obviously, is in the beginning, I like the idea, and we're going to actually talk about it again in just a moment, of the 3 sets of 3, all 3 exercises 3 days a week at first. And what you want to do is you go into the gym and you take reasonably light weights. Court recommends you start off with 58% week 1, and I think go to 60 week 2, 62 week 3, and 64 week 4 in one of his programs. These are very light lifts, but you practice the lifts, never miss, and you get good at them. From there's all kinds of directions you can go, like adding more days a week, and obviously you can add the intensity up on that. But the first thing I really want to get across to anybody who wants to be a power lifter is you got to practice the actual lifts. I've had a few friends, and I think Westside's brilliant, but what happens is they're new to the sport and they're spending all their time on all the auxiliary exercises and don't actually get a chance to practice the actual lifts. If you can, I'd love to see you spend some time just with 3 days a week, pushing up, see how far you can come with the most basic program the world's ever seen, and see how far you can progress. Again, don't miss lifts. Maybe if you are going to do this 3 sets of 3 thing, maybe every 5th or 6th week you have your own little gym lift, and you do you see how strong you are, and the squat, the bench, the deadlift, and retest it. It's important that listeners hear what I'm answering. John asked a question here about a beginner powerlifter, and I'm giving a beginning powerlifter program. I don't think you need to make it very fancy. I don't think you need to do anything fancy with reps and sets. I think you just need time under the bar. Whenever I see beginner programs with percents, now I did quote a percent a minute ago, and I'm telling you not to, but I can remember when I was first Olympic lifting, there were no percents that worked. I was getting new personal records 3 days a week. One day I added 15 kilos to my personal record in the clean and jerk. That's 33 pounds. I showed up at the gym with the best clean and jerk of 270. I walked out of the gym with the best clean and jerk of 303. How do you figure that out with a bunch of tables of nonsense that we all know were invented by people who never lifted? So that's what I'd recommend first. His programs were very popular. Korte's programs were very popular in the early aughts. People discussed them all the time on forums. A lot of friends of mine went real deep into it and had great success with it. One thing I'd like you to think about is when you get those 3 sets of 3 in 3 days a week, I call it the 3x3x3 program. And it's shockingly doable. And then what you do is you add a fourth day, and if you can, a fifth day, but you keep that. Once you get to, after about 6 to 12 weeks of that, it's going to be time to add some other things. But for a beginner, I don't think there is a better thing to do than the 3x3x3x3 program. If you want to add anything to it, I would try to make sure you had, honestly, I think loaded carries would be the best thing you can possibly do, because you want to build your work capacity. You want to build your grip. I know that only the deadlift really chases your grip in powerlifting, but the deadlift is probably the king of grip exercises. If you can, get with a team. If you can, compete as much as you possibly can. A number of my friends have lifted in powerlifting meets, and they're not born for the sport, but they stepped up, they put on the singlet, they put on the shoes, they stepped on the platform, and I got great respect for that. There are a lot of federations in powerlifting, and there's a real good chance, depending on where you live, that there might be, in the next 12 weeks, you might be able to drive to 5, 6, or 7 meets around, and it's well worth your time to compete. I'll say this: you'll learn a lot about yourself when you write the check and step on the platform. One of the things you find out is really how smooth and smart your training program is. Good question, and I thank you a lot. Okay.